I'll tell you something, Joshua. Usually people, when I talk to them, they don't want to come back again. But there's a very specific, there's a very specific type of people who would want to come again and again, right?
Hmm.
So I would want to know, like, the purpose behind it. What is the reason you think you still have want to have a discussion with me? Tell me.
There's a lot of things that was said there on our last discussion that I did some research on, and some more kind of questions I kind of have for you. Not necessarily because I specifically think I need answers to them, but I would like to know the
Mhm,
Muslim perspective on it. Um,
mhm.
I had an interesting experience with my buddy who is Muslim, and I got to learn a lot more concerning the religion from that. But I just have a couple like random questions kind of associated with like
Sorry, concerning what religion? You mean Islam?
yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So was there anything that was said in that video that wasn't true? By the way, all sources were presented on the screen of everything that was said. So
Yeah.
can you tell me that? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I mean there was a couple things. I mean like one of the things that I said I think was misconstrued, but I mean that's fine for a miscommunication standpoint. I don't think there's any foul play
Sure.
at work there. Um,
Okay.
but I did
Well,
like come across more information to kind of address what you did say there. And if you wanted to
sure.
go over that, or if you wanted to go over my
No, no,
questions
no.
concerning
I
Islam.
just want to clarify one thing. We're not talking about extra responses here to different points, right? My question was more about is that the information that was presented was all correct. So then, if this is the case, then you have different responses to things that you didn't have on the stream. I get that point, no
Mm.
problem. You went, you did research, you have different responses. That's a different story. But what was presented in the stream, it was of course not misrepresented. That's what I care about. That what I said was not misrepresented maliciously, misrepresented or something like that, and that's why I'm very careful to present sources on the screen and give evidences for what I say.
Yeah, I
Now,
definitely don't think you did anything malicious, but depending on how you mean correct, like your points, I don't think were very concrete points. I think I
of
think there
course, you're
were
Mormon, so I wouldn't say that you would. If you thought that they were concrete, you wouldn't be Mormon anymore. I'd say,
yeah,
like, obviously.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, that's
that's
fair.
really,
That's
yeah,
very
that's
fair.
really okay. So we don't want to keep going in the same circle. So what do you
Right.
have for me? What is the questions that you have for me? So I mean by same circle, I mean the previous things that we talked about. So what do you have for me? Go ahead. What
Yeah.
are these questions
So
that you want to
so
ask?
there was so it's Sahih Muslim, 2167A, right? And
Yeah,
it's
numbers are usually can be different from the edition, so you can read the narration if you'd like. That would be better. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says, "Do not greet the Jews and the Christians before they greet you, and when you meet any one
Sure.
of them on the roads, force him to go to the narrowest part of it."
Sure.
And I'm kind of just curious how that kind of correlates with the message of Islam, as it is
Sure.
it's a bit rude, violent. I don't know what the best word to be there is, especially considering that as a Christian, I would say that Jesus, taught to love thy enemy, right? And I was under this sort of assumption that Islam kind of had that shared idea that as long as there was no threat of persecution, there was a love to be shared there. Is there any context behind that sunnah there?
Okay, sure. So we will see now if the questions that you came up with, the other questions are like this. So what you've done, and I hope that's not the case,
Mm-hmm.
but this is what I can sense right now is that you ended the discussion and then you went to try and find things that may make Islam look in a way which is not the best and then present them. And if this was the case, I'll tell you something very interesting that whatever you can come up with, we can easily respond
Mm-hmm.
to. So unlike, for example, other faiths and religions which would not have an answer to the questions represented, in the case I would claim, like the video of Mormonism, which people can watch and they can come up to their own conclusion. On the other hand, we can respond to these questions because we're not afraid. But hopefully that was not your intent, because if it
Mm-hmm.
was, then I would tell you to revise your heart, because it's
Yeah.
not about vengeance, and coming up with, oh, I'll try to come up with things that makes this look this way or makes that. It's about truth and falsehood, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, I don't mind responding to that point anyways. First, I would highlight what you said, which I don't believe is true. Christianity does not claims, yes, love your enemy, but the practices do not reflect that. The crusades certainly
That's
did
not a
not,
fair
for
argument
example.
to make, though. That's not a fair argument to make. When you say that the religion
Huh?
claims one thing, but the practices are not the same. One thing that when I was hanging around with my Muslim friend, the imam would often allude to certain extremist groups, and I would say that you would say they don't practice Islam in the way that is
I
intentional.
completely agree.
Cool.
I completely agree.
So then
But
I would
but
not
but the
say
issue
it's a
is,
good argument for you to say that
no, no,
Christianity
no.
does
The
not
issue,
practice what it preaches, especially to
look,
draw context from things as early as the Crusades. I think that's very unfair of you to say.
Joshua. Okay, I'll tell you something, and I'll say it very respectfully. This happened in the last discussion. You got agitated. I can tell that you right now.
Agitated now?
You have a little bit of that.
You think I'm agitated
Yeah,
now?
yeah. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what are the
Why
signs of
would
this. The
why would
signs
you
is that
no
you
no
didn't
no
allow
no.
me.
Do you have a degree in
Here. The example I'm
psychology?
about to
Or why
say.
are you trying to
Here,
define how I am and why I
here,
am?
here is why I am,
You
because you are
you
interrupting. This is,
but
and
you're trying to tell me you're trying
continuously
to
doing
tell
it
me
right now. So
how
it's
I
just,
act and how I feel, and I think that's just not okay.
yes.
I came in here
No, no,
with an
but
open heart,
that's
and you tried to immediately
sure.
paint that picture as elsewise, and I think that's
So
not
you're gonna let
okay.
me speak, or would you force me to do what I did last time? I hope that's not the case. Look, you jumped into assuming what I was about to say. That was the issue. That's why I said you were
I didn't
agitated, because
assume
you were in a
anything.
defensive mood.
I didn't assume
You were
anything. I didn't assume anything.
you did assume,
You were
because I
trying to
only,
tell me
okay.
that
So what was the sentence?
you're trying to tell me I'm up here maliciously, and I'm telling you that's not the case. And
No, that's not what I was saying.
I would appreciate if we actually were down to discuss doctrine and not how you think I'm acting versus how you want me to act
No, we cannot
for your
discuss
hurt.
when you interrupt me when I speak. We
Well,
cannot
yeah,
discuss when you
but
interrupt
what
me.
you were
So,
speaking about is not
so
about
if you're
doctrine.
able
It's
to,
about who I am as a
well,
person,
that is
and
certain.
that's
It's
not
not
a.
relevant to you. What I okay, it's
It
not
is
relevant to you.
very
What I speak
relevant.
about. I can.
It is very
I'm
relevant
allowed
when
to
it
speak about
pertains
what
to
I.
me. You are telling.
Okay, you just proving my point. Like, you keep telling people I'm not agitated, but you like literally say a word. So you make yourself look bad, Joshua, and I feel sorry for you.
Is there some
And I would hope that you just, like,
background?
relax a little bit, chill. Like I
Crazy
told you
shit,
last
man.
time, you did the same thing.
Crazy shit.
Have a little bit of vengeance. You maybe feel bad about how you looked last time, and how your religion, you couldn't respond to the answers, so you're feeling bad and upset.
You
I
good?
don't. This is your love of your enemy.
Oh, hey, welcome. Hold up, one moment.